Now at 5, I'm tracking our next storm. Lots of wind here across the state, plus rain and snow, where we could see damaging wind tonight coming up.
Plus, we're in northern Utah, where those winds are starting to pick up as residents brace for damaging winds tonight.
Then we look at the impact losing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will have, even if it's only temporary, on Utah's fight against COVID-19.
Some in the Salt Lake Valley reporting booms and even some shaking today. We're here at the Tooele Army Depot South area. We'll show you what they were doing today that might answer some questions.
A new report on the great experiment, teleworking. How did it help Utah?
It was kind of interesting to go around the corner and there it was, right up on the shore, all the way out of the water.
A friendly fishing trip turns into a fascinating find on Lake Powell. We'll show you what low water revealed along the shoreline.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
It has been windy all day today, but the windstorm in parts of northern Utah is expected to really pick up as the night goes on. Tonight, we want to help you to be prepared.
The Fox 13 weather team has issued a first alert action day due to damaging winds expected tonight, and we have team coverage for you.
Sydney Glenn is on the ground in Cache County talking with people getting ready for the storm, but we begin with meteorologist Allison Krogan in the Fox 13 Weather Center. Allison.
Yes, very strong winds tonight, potentially causing damage. I would say actually it is likely we see damage here, especially for the northern Wasatch Front and Cache Valley. Right now our wind is gusting about 25 to 35 miles per hour for Salt Lake and Logan, and gusting around 30 to 40 miles per hour for Cedar and St. George. But come 6 o'clock, so very shortly here, we'll have high wind warnings that kick into effect. Those will be through tomorrow at noon. Then for the Salt Lake Valley and Wasatch back, wind advisories. Now we're also tracking the chance for some rain and snow here across the region, so we'll also have winter driving conditions for our highest mountain passes on and off over the next couple of days. But right now here across the state, most of our wind not really impacting a wind chill, because you don't get a wind chill until you are below 50 degrees. But overnight that wind will really impact our temperatures. Right now you can see that impact for Evanston, feels like 15 degrees there right now. So Salt Lake tonight, we'll have a chance for some rain, breezy conditions, especially by 9 o'clock tonight. By 10 p.m., 48 degrees. Overnight temperatures will be in the 40s here for Salt Lake, but really tracking these gusty conditions for the northern Wasatch Front. It's downslope wind that is cold, dense air. It moves down the mountain, and as it does so, it accelerates, and it's going to be coming down so fast we could see wind gusts for residential areas around 70 miles per hour possible. So that would definitely cause damage. We'll talk more about what you can expect specifically for these areas. I will have a future cast for wind speeds for you coming up this hour.
All right, Allison, thank you. While many have only lawn furniture to worry about, other Utahns are taking steps tonight to protect farm animals and crops.
Sydney Glenn joins us live from the American West Heritage Center in Wellsville. Sydney, right now, how's the weather?
Well, we just have a little bit of wind, and this sweet little guy and I are doing okay right now. But the question today is, how do you really protect animals, especially little ones like this? So this is Karen Larson. She's the education manager. Talk to us about how this place is built to make sure that your small animals are ready for this.
Sure. It all starts in preparing and planning with the shelter. You need to make sure you have the right kind of shelter for each animal. And also on a daily routine, you're checking the bedding, you're making sure that everything is in good repair and that these animals can be well cared for in any kind of a storm.
Now, the biggest concern today, though, because the animals are so well prepared for this, is actually other things on the land. Talk to us about what you guys are most worried about going into tonight.
Sure. A lot of what we have around here are some really old trees on this property, and that is a concern for us as we have historical buildings here on our site as well.
Perfect. Again, Karen saying that the biggest thing here is making sure these animals are safe. So you can see the area over here, they have shelter, the calves, the same thing, the pigs as well. Everyone prepared for whatever tonight may bring. Live in Cache Valley, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Sydney, thank you. Salt Lake City's Sustainability Department is reminding residents to be prepared for power outages tonight. And if you have a Wednesday garbage collection, they ask you to wait to put your container out until tomorrow morning.
We want everyone to stick with Fox 13 News for continuing coverage of the windstorm moving in tonight. And also, please send us any video or pictures you take of the storm to news@fox13now.com.
We've got a big development in the fight against COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration have recommended a pause in the use of the Johnson & Johnson one-dose vaccine.
Bob, this after 6 cases of a rare and severe type of blood clot were reported in the United States. Now, the cases all in women between the ages of 18 and 48, all occurring 6 to 13 days after vaccination. One of those women has died, another now in critical condition. The 6 cases are out of nearly 7 million doses of the one-shot vaccine administered nationwide so far. The clotting has not been seen yet after any Moderna or Pfizer vaccinations.
People who have vaccine appointments with the other 2 vaccines should continue with their appointment.
A CDC advisory committee will convene tomorrow to discuss the next steps.
After the news broke, the state health department released a statement asking vaccine providers to temporarily pause administering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. University of Utah Health and Intermountain Healthcare have paused and are following the guidelines.
Our patients' safety and their well-being is our highest priority. We'll need to balance any intervention with the risk of contracting the coronavirus itself.
An abundance of caution is being used because we're under an emergency use authorization. The FDA and CDC are carefully monitoring this.
Intermountain and U of U Health are rescheduling people who were supposed to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine this week to get either the Pfizer or Moderna shot.
Johnson & Johnson is a distant third in terms of how many shots have been administered in Utah, but losing it, at least for now, takes away a powerful weapon in the war against COVID-19.
Fox 13's Max Roth joins us now in studio. Max.
Johnson & Johnson's vaccine was in just 1 in 20 shots given in Utah so far, but it's easy to explain why taking it out of circulation makes things far more difficult. It just takes 3 words: 1 refrigerated dose. In the big cities, there's central high-tech frozen storage for Pfizer and Moderna, with lots of delivery options. Utah has 4 counties with fewer than 3,000 residents and no access by interstate. 1 dose, 1 less drive. Rich Lakin oversees Utah's vaccine distribution.
We used it in rural areas where, it's hard to store the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, where the J&J can be refrigerated up to 3 months.
And how about people who are homebound or who are simply scared of needles? 1 refrigerated dose is easily stored, easily delivered, and means 1 less needle and 1 less drive.
We used it in mobile units. We used it with individuals that had a difficult time going to mass clinics or their local health departments or their pharmacy.
Right now, Utah has almost 50,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in the fridge. Now, that is enough to vaccinate every resident of Utah's 11 smallest counties put together. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Max, thank you. Today, Utah saw another 358 new cases of COVID-19. Since Friday, the percentage of people getting a positive test result has risen 0.7%. It now sits just below 8%. 124 people are currently hospitalized with the virus. 59 of them are in intensive care. Today, 2 people have died, a Salt Lake County woman and a Carbon County woman.
Nearly 700,000 people in Utah are now considered fully vaccinated. This includes nearly 75% of all people older than the age of 70. More than 30,000 doses have been administered in the past 24 hours.
Still ahead, it's looking to be a game changer for the city of Ogden. We'll show you the massive public transit project that's planned for the city and who will be footing the bill.
And the defense attorney for the officer that killed George Floyd is making his case. Hear who he called to the stand as Minnesota is in a state of unrest.
In national news, there are big changes to the Brooklyn Center, Minnesota Police Department in the wake of the fatal shooting of Dante Wright.
The city's police chief and the officer involved in the deadly incident have now both stepped down. After 2 nights of tense standoffs, officials, including the new acting police chief, continue to plead for peace.
We'd like some calm for the community, just some pause and community calming as we try and wrap our heads around the entire situation.
The medical examiner says Wright died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. Police say the officer who fired the fatal shots accidentally used her gun instead of her taser.
In the Derek Chauvin murder trial, the defense started presenting its case today. Chauvin's attorney called several witnesses to the stand. The first was a retired Minneapolis police officer who testified about a previous arrest of George Floyd in 2019.
The passenger was unresponsive and non-compliant to my commands.
Jurors also heard testimony from a passenger in Floyd's car prior to his death and a Minneapolis Park police officer who was present at the scene of Floyd's arrest. The defense is expected to wrap up its case by Friday.
President Joe Biden paid his respects to the Capitol police officer killed earlier this month. The body of Officer William Billy Evans is lying in honor in the Capitol Rotunda. President Biden says though he didn't know Officer Evans personally, he reminded him of the children he grew up with in Pennsylvania.
Billy was always the kid that, you know, if you got in a fight, you're outnumbered 3 to 1, he'd still jump in, knowing they both get beaten. He was the one who always kept his word. If he said he'd be there, he'd be there.
The 41-year-old police officer was killed April 2nd after being struck by a vehicle that rammed a police checkpoint. He was the second Capitol police officer to die in the line of duty this year.
For years, they've been detonating old munitions here at the Tooele Army Depot. We'll show you an exclusive look at the detonations today, coming up.
And it's being called the Great Experiment. We'll explain why teleworking saved Utah's economy during the pandemic. People in the Tooele and Salt Lake Valleys reported hearing some loud booms just before noon today.
And there's reason for that. The Tooele Army Depot was conducting daily detonations.
Fox 13's Brian Schnee was at the range today and gives us an exclusive look at what goes on into each detonation.
It's quite the process to safely get from here to here. The Tooele Army Depot has been conducting open detonations for decades.
So every day we make a masterpiece, and then in 28 minutes we blow it all up and start over.
These munitions that we are detonating are expired. Just like a food that we go buy at the grocery store has an expiration date, these munitions have an expiration date.
After crates are packed in accordance to regulations, they're brought out to the range. Then they're wired and buried.
The size of these detonations and how much we can do in a day is what makes us unique here at Tooele Army Depot.
While most people hear or see these detonations from miles and miles away, this building is what they call the shooter shack, where they charge and fire the detonations from just a few hundred yards away.
15 seconds.
Just after 11 a.m., 14 detonations in about 14 minutes. With blasts so large, they can be heard or even felt in communities miles and miles away.
Depending on the wind direction and speed, it'll carry it farther or shorter, depending on the weather of the day.
The purpose of these detonations is to demilitarize old, obsolete, damaged, or otherwise unsafe munitions. Those detonated when we were there to watch were from 1969.
We always try to do everything that we do safely, and the end goal is to support the warfighter, make space for their training munitions or their live mission munitions.
In Tooele County, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Wow. Officials with the depot say they can go weeks without someone calling to inquire about hearing a loud boom. However, weather conditions can really help shift the sound. The detonation schedule there at the depot lasts until October. If you'd like to see it, go to fox13now.com.
Yes, the clouds definitely, it makes the noises seem a lot louder.
Now, and interesting too, when you saw the detonations there, the wind was not blowing the smoke away at all. But now it is.
A little bit of a lull right now. We had the very gusty winds this morning, and then tonight we're really going to have those strong winds picking up again. So that's why the Fox 13 weather team has issued a first alert action day. This just means it's a day when the weather will actually have a very big impact on part of the viewing area. So that area that we're keeping our eye on very closely tonight, the northern Wasatch Front, Cache Valley, eastern Box Elder County. Damaging winds are possible with a downslope wind event. So a good day to stay weather aware. This wind is really going to start getting strong here in a couple of hours, and it's going to peak overnight. So we're going to have high wind warnings that are starting here pretty soon at 6 o'clock for the areas of yellow, that mustard color that you're seeing. Those are high wind warnings. We could see wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. And then new this afternoon for the Salt Lake Valley, wind advisory for the Salt Lake Valley and Wasatch back. That'll be until Wednesday at 9 a.m. Then the winds will die down tomorrow and the precipitation will increase. We'll have scattered showers though this afternoon and evening ahead of the main system. And then a concern for southern Utah the next couple of days, everything in hot pink, red flag warnings. This will be until Wednesday at 9 p.m. So I mentioned scattered showers. This is all ahead of the main event. This Pacific storm system is going to shift south and then east, and this is slowly going to move through the state over the next couple of days. And so we're going to see mountain snowfall, valley rainfall, and lots of gusty wind tonight. So wind gusts right now, Evanston, Logan, Brigham City, Salt Lake, Heber, about 25 to 35 miles per hour. Again, this is just getting going. Southwestern Utah, Cedar City and St. George, check out those wind gusts around 40 to 45 miles per hour. It's also breezy down towards Blanding. But let's talk about tonight, because this is when the bulk of our gusty winds will be arriving. So by 10:30 tonight, Logan 62 miles per hour, Farmington 60 miles per hour. We're looking at very strong wind gusts. Salt Lake 35 miles per hour. That's definitely going to be a noticeable wind, but if you live along any of the benches near the mouths of the canyons, that's where we're going to have the strongest wind gusts here for most of northern Utah. So future wind gusts through tomorrow, tonight at midnight, we're going to have that wind in Logan 64 miles per hour. Notice Tooele, light winds throughout most of this evening, and then by 3 a.m. 73 miles per hour up in Logan. This is enough to cause damage. We're tracking the possibility of power outages. Do not park your car under a tree tonight if you can avoid doing so, because we could see those downed limbs. Trees could be falling with this. Fencing, if it's not done well, could also have problems this evening with these very strong wind gusts. And we'll keep these strong winds through tomorrow morning. So this means the morning commute, especially from North Salt Lake up towards Tremonton. And then because of the location of our low pressure system, we're going to get that Cache Valley and Bear River range into the downslope winds, which normally this is an area that favors a storm setup that favors Farmington and Centerville, but that's why we're really going to keep our eye on especially the Cache Valley and eastern Box Elder tonight. So we look at the bigger picture here, strongest wind gusts across far northern Utah this evening and into early tomorrow morning. But then come Wednesday afternoon, the focus is for southern Utah, and that's why we have those red flag warnings in place through tomorrow night. Overnight temperatures will be about 35 to 40 for the Wasatch Front, 40s and 50s for southern Utah. By tomorrow afternoon, as that wind decreases, the precipitation increases. We'll see those temperatures tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m., about 40 to 50 here across the state. And for St. George, your temperatures around 70 to 75 through Friday, and then close to 80 Sunday into next week. For the Wasatch Front, temperatures around 50 to 55 through the rest of the week, then back close to 60 starting on Saturday. But I am tracking that chance for mountain snowfall. Could see a few powder days are possible still for the remaining resorts that are open. So coming up, I'll have that snow forecast for what you can expect here over the next couple of days and more details about tonight's wind event.
Coming up after the break.
After years of planning, a major transportation project breaks ground. How it will connect Ogden and who's paying the $120 million price tag.
We can't afford to shut the economy down, and we're just going to have to live with the consequences.
A new report takes a look at teleworking and its impact on Utah's economy.
A fishing group makes quite the discovery on Lake Powell.
That was the big find of the weekend.
How low water levels brought their big find to the surface, leading them to question what else is hidden under the water.
Microsoft has pulled off its second largest acquisition ever. You know this is going to be big, Bob.
It is. It struck an agreement to buy speech recognition company Nuance in a deal worth nearly $20 billion, including debt. Nuance has become a leader in voice recognition services for the healthcare industry. Walgreens used Nuance technology to help schedule COVID-19 vaccine appointments. The technology also helped launch Apple's voice recognition assistant, Siri.
Well, they've had a lot of attention over the past several months, and now GameStop is searching for a new CEO. Reuters says the retailer is looking for someone to guide its transition from a brick-and-mortar company to e-commerce. GameStop saw its stock price soar earlier this year when it became the target of small investors gathering on Reddit.
Struggling airline Air Canada is getting a helping hand. The Canadian government has agreed to pump more than $4.5 billion into the airline. The agreement protects thousands of jobs and allows the airline to buy dozens of new jets. Air Canada also committed to pay back customers who did not take flights they had booked because of COVID-19.
Truckers want to make sure they have their say on the federal infrastructure proposal. Trucking, certainly one industry that has much to gain or lose, possibly both, with the new infrastructure plan. The dilemma facing carriers is, while better roads are a definite plus, the higher corporate tax rate that President Joe Biden is seeking will impact the bottom lines of both trucking companies as well as their customers.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average wobbled today as investors tried to gauge the impact of a halt in the rollout of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine and an uptick in inflation. The Dow finished down 8 points to close at 33,677. The Nasdaq added 146. The S&P rose 14.
Cutting the commute time in half for people in Weber County. How a new public transit program will connect communities and who's picking up the bill.
Gusty winds from Logan to Provo, but some places will have it worse than others. We'll help you prepare for the wind event on this First Alert Action Day.
Good evening, everyone. The Fox 13 weather team is forecasting another strong wind event in northern Utah starting this evening into the overnight hours. This is a look at some of the damage we actually saw in Farmington already earlier today. So the winds have begun.
Yeah, the big question now is it going to be as bad as last September? Let's get an answer from the expert.
Yes, that's a great question, and the answer it will not be as strong or as widespread as what we saw here in Salt Lake City in September, but enough that we will still have some property damage possible, especially for far northern Utah tonight. Right now, our wind is gusting about 35 miles per hour, Evanston, Logan, Salt Lake, and near 40 miles per hour for St. George and Cedar City. But we look at the overnight hours, and our setup will have our normal downslope prone areas like Farmington and Centerville, plus Cache Valley, eastern Box Elder County, and then also for the Bear River range. So satellite and radar here across the state showing you also tracking areas of some rain, but for the overnight hours, we'll have high wind warnings that go into effect in a half hour for far northern Utah from Salt Lake all the way up towards southern Idaho, and then for Salt Lake Valley along the Wasatch back as well, wind advisories that'll go through tomorrow morning. So we have issued a first alert action day. That is when the Fox 13 weather team believes that we will have a big impact for the weather on a part of the viewing area. The area we're really keeping our eye on for tonight, northern Wasatch Front, Cache Valley, and eastern Box Elder County. And the main impact will be damaging winds that are possible with our downslope winds for tonight. Salt Lake over the next couple of hours, we'll have those temperatures in the 50s through about 10 o'clock, and then a chance for some rain increases after midnight. But that wind will be the strongest after about 9 o'clock tonight, and it will peak over overnight. Coming up in the full forecast, I'll let you know exactly what you can expect for that wind tonight, plus potential snow totals here over the next couple of days.
All right, Allison, thanks. Weber County's first rapid bus transit project broke ground today. It will connect Front Runner with Weber State University.
It is a significant project that will transform mass transit in Ogden. Fox 13's Haley Higgins shows us the project, 20 years in the making.
While taking the bus to the Weber State University campus, Leilani Preciado learned it can be tricky.
If you happen to miss that bus, the next bus doesn't come until another 30 minutes. So you're set back a certain amount of time.
Weber County's first rapid bus transit project will cut that time in half, running every 10 to 15 minutes from Front Runner up to the D Event Center.
I think it would be great.
The 5.3-mile project will feature 11 electric buses on a few dedicated bus lanes with traffic light priority. Buses will tie the city's major locations, including Weber State, Intermountain McCady Hospital, and 25th Street.
That's really key. It allows all these other people to be able to have a much faster, quicker connection between all these facilities within Ogden City.
Well, the price tag for the project is about $120 million. More than half of it will come from federal grants. The project will connect to Weber State next year with a full rollout by late 2023.
I would use it, yeah, for sure.
Fares will be completely free for the first 3 years. In Ogden, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Prosecutors, lawyers, and police chiefs and community leaders are discussing lawful and unlawful uses of force by police in a virtual symposium this week. The 3-day event began today. It examines not only the national impact of the use of force, but also how it pertains to Utah. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill spoke at today's session, focusing on the history and impact of force in society, specifically in communities of color or poverty.
The question that we're really going to be asking is where do we want to go from here, and what is the role of our policymakers? And as I've said, if we want different outcomes, then we need to change the law, because we keep expecting different outcomes from the same behavior under the same law, and we're not going to get that.
The event continues through Thursday and is open to the public, although registration is required. For more information, go to fox13now.com.
The Utah Zero Fatalities Summit was held virtually once again this year, but they do have a new message. UDOT is asking everyone to stop the texts, stop the wrecks. This year's keynote speaker was Leslie Henson Rasmussen. She lost her husband Dave when he was killed by a distracted driver while they were out walking. She says a simple change in behavior can prevent more families from facing preventable tragedies.
I really believe that we can reduce those greatly. We have to just continue educating and having our law enforcement officers really enforce the law. So I hope that we all remember that it really does only take one step to save a life.
Rasmussen has been lobbying to make Utah a hands-free state, allowing only hands-free usage of cell phones while driving. Right now, 22 states do have similar laws. The latest attempt failed to pass the legislature this year, but Rasmussen is asking people to urge their state representatives to vote on it next year.
Thanks to federal CARES Act money, rural communities in Utah have been able to make investments that will benefit them long after the pandemic is over. Our content partners at the Salt Lake Tribune report the state distributed a little more than $139 million in CARES Act money to all but 2 of Utah's counties. Due to population size, Salt Lake and Utah counties receive funding directly from the federal government. Rural counties found ways to spend the money that provide long-term benefits.
The biggest chunk of money definitely went to help businesses and to the public health response, but a fair amount went to technology.
Many invested in the technology to live stream county meetings, thus allowing easier access for public comment and participation. They also provided funds to local businesses, helping to keep them afloat during the pandemic. and pandemic-related restrictions, such as mandated closures or reductions in capacity.
The governor has named his choice to handle homelessness in the state. Former Utah State Senate President Wayne Niederhauser will now be the point person. He served for 12 years in the state Senate, 6 of them as Senate president. The legislature passed a bill this year creating a committee to tackle the increasing problem of homelessness in the state of Utah. The job requires coordinating state agencies to increase services and also to get people out of homelessness.
Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes is joining 15 other states in suing over census numbers. The state is jumping into a lawsuit over a privacy tool the U.S. Census Bureau is using. The Census Bureau claims it is to protect people's privacy from data miners. But the Utah Attorney General's office says it will negatively harm redistricting efforts. If you have been working from home during the pandemic, you've been helping Utah's economy.
Maybe you didn't even know that. As Ben Winslow shows us in this rebound report, a study indicates telework has helped keep Utah's economy from crumbling.
Well, like a lot of you, the pandemic is forcing me to work from home a lot more. The state says teleworking is the great experiment. It appears to have been a success.
We were all forced to have to do this.
Utah's Department of Workforce Services has been tracking how people have worked from home in the COVID-19 pandemic. Using U.S. Bureau of Labor surveys, they've observed how workers nationally and here in Utah have been forced to pivot.
What we saw was that instantly about 35% of the national economy or the national workers had been shifted from working somewhere outside of the house now into the house.
What they found is even locally, people are starting to return to the office, but not everyone.
Since the economy has reopened, we've seen it tapering off. It's still overall about 20 to 25% of all the workers are still teleworking.
There's some interesting data points too. For example, more women than men telework.
Men are very dominant in industries that cannot telecommute: mining, construction, manufacturing.
Older and well-educated people are also more likely to telework. Economically, Utah's Department of Workforce Services says it appears teleworking has helped keep Utah's economy going strong.
We would have had to make a real hard choice 20 years ago. Shut the economy down even more than we did in this environment, or we can't afford to shut the economy down and we're just going to have to live with the consequences.
The Utah State Legislature passed a bill this year that dramatically expands teleworking in state government, classifying every employee based on whether they can work remotely or not. It was sponsored by Senator Dan McKay.
It's really impressive when you look at the data to realize how much the ability to telework really changed and saved our economy.
But one sector that could be impacted by an expansion of telework, downtown Salt Lake City, which really relies on office workers.
Once the COVID goes away, once we all are free to go back to our office environments, will it happen?
Of course, the ability to telework depends on internet access. A bill that would have expanded broadband and fiber access across underserved areas in the state did not pass the legislature. Its sponsor may try again next year. In my living room, working from home, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Utah's Teacher of the Year is now getting national attention and could win that award as well. We'll introduce you to him coming up. Yesterday marked the beginning of Ramadan, and Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall put out a special message for Utah's Muslim community. Ramadan Mubarak, which translates to have a blessed Ramadan. During Ramadan, people in the Islamic faith abstain from food and drink from dawn to dusk. The month is also a time to do good deeds and abstain from sin. Mayor Mendenhall offered a message of respect.
Salt Lake City's strong communities of faith add so much to our city's culture. To those of you who are beginning your fast, I wish you strength and a month of special iftars with those that you love.
Ramadan ends when the sun sets on Wednesday, May 12th. That night, Muslims celebrate with a festival called Eid al-Fitr, which is celebrated by having your family, friends, and neighbors over for a large feast.
Now, this is exciting. Utah's Teacher of the Year got new honors today. He's now up for the entire country's Teacher of the Year. A+. John Arthur is a 6th grade teacher at Meadowlark Elementary School. That's in Salt Lake City. He and his students have received national recognition for the videos they create, highlighting the struggles, also the joys his students have experienced over the pandemic.
We have done something that no one's ever had to do before. And I hope that going forward, there are students out there who are inspired having watched us do what we do and choose to become teachers, because I know that I've been so inspired watching the students overcome their challenges.
Isn't that great? The inspiration works both ways there.
Oh, yeah.
What a great teacher and great person. Mr. Arthur, John Arthur, and the other 3 finalists who he's up against are all in it for the national title. They will be interviewed with the selection committee before the National Teacher of the Year is announced sometime later this spring. You know who we're going for.
Oh, yeah.
When we realized we could actually go right up to it and get out and kind of walk around it, it was cool to see.
Low water levels lead to a surprising find on the shores of Lake Powell. What one group found that turned into the highlight of their trip. Something curious has been uncovered at Lake Powell, and its history remains a mystery.
Now I'm curious, are you? The group that made the discovery explains how they actually spotted it. And as Lauren Steinbrecher reports, is a sign of just how little water is in the reservoir.
Some have never seen the Lake Powell shoreline like this.
It's lower than we've ever seen with the water. It's pretty crazy.
So low that boat ramps closed and new things sat exposed, as Liz Bowles discovered during a friends and family fishing trip last weekend.
Where we camped is usually underwater. It was there was a few things like soda cans and things like that we cleaned up.
It gave them a new camping spot and revealed some trash long hidden underwater. When the group of boats headed back on Sunday,
we just came around the corner and
they spotted something on the shrunken shoreline.
It wasn't until somebody had pointed out that it was all the way out of the water, so we just kind of puttered over to it, and
wedged in the rocks, a shipwrecked boat.
We could actually go right up to it and get out and kind of walk around it. It was cool to see. Around it were a few things that belonged to the boat, and we tried to not disturb it too much because we don't know how secure it is there, and we didn't want anyone to get hurt. But we could see that there had been some people that had tried to recover it at some point. There were straps on it and things like that they were obviously unsuccessful at getting the boat out of the water.
The boat is certainly out of water now because of extreme drought.
And not only is it dry, but this is the second dry year that we've seen in a row.
The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation explains Lake Powell is projected to hit 31% capacity this year. Right now, it's at 36%. They have a water management plan in place, but if it continues to drop,
the levels that we're projected to reach haven't been seen since it started filling in 1969.
Which means
things are being seen now that haven't been seen for a while. And as people explore different areas of Powell, they're going to have a new experience.
While this boat's story remains a mystery, it's making for quite the story from Liz's trip.
Yeah, it was just kind of a cool little find.
Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, we do have some more rain and snow in the forecast, but the main impact here across the state will be our wind, and that is why the Fox 13 weather team has issued a first alert action day for far northern Utah. Getting to that in just a second. Right now, it's in the 50s for the Wasatch Front, 20s for Evanston. Keep in mind, these are the actual temperatures, not the wind chill. We will have wind chill coming into effect tonight because of how strong our winds are going to be and our cool overnight temperatures. But right now, our wind is gusting Evanston, Salt Lake, Logan about 35 miles per hour. Southwestern Utah around 40 to 45 miles per hour. If you can believe it, this is actually a bit of a break from what we had earlier this morning, and it is going to be very strong again tonight. So the areas of yellow that you're seeing, these will be high wind warnings that start here in just a few minutes at 6 o'clock and go until 9 a.m. So North Salt Lake all the way up into southern Idaho and down through Evanston, those are high wind warnings. Then for the Salt Lake Valley and the Wasatch back over towards Park City down into Heber, that'll be a wind advisory through tomorrow morning. And then for southern Utah, tracking red flag warnings. These will be in place until Wednesday at 9 p.m. And then I am watching some more rain and snow, and this will really ramp up tomorrow when our wind starts to decrease here across northern Utah. But down through Torrey right now, seeing a few areas of lightning possible through central Utah, and then through the afternoon tomorrow, very well could see a few thunderstorms developing. So this is going to be a slow moving storm that brings precipitation kind of on and off over the next couple of days, but the bulk of our wind will be arriving tonight through tomorrow morning. So gusty downslope winds, the main threat. The areas in yellow that you're seeing here, those are wind speeds of gusts of 40 to 55 miles per hour. Then the areas of orange, so Bear Lake down towards Evanston, Cache Valley, and then eastern Box Elder down through North Salt Lake. These will be wind gusts in orange, 65 to 80 miles per hour. That is enough to cause problems. So the setup that we have cold, dense air that is moving towards the mountains. The easterly ridge tops is pushing it down the slope, and that dense air is accelerating down the slope, and it's the strongest once it gets towards the valley. So stronger winds tonight, a little bit of a different setup than we had earlier this morning with the gusty canyon winds. And also because of the location of the parent storm system, it's a little further north. So we'll have our normal downslope prone areas like Farmington and Centerville, but then we're going to add the Cache Valley and Bear River Valley. Travel impacts I-15, Box Elder, Davis, Weber, North Salt Lake, and then US 89 and Legacy Parkway. UDOT already saying they are going to be in full cooperation with the National Weather Service to maybe limit high-profile vehicles overnight and into tomorrow morning. I'm also tracking potential property damage and power outages, so make sure you have those emergency kits prepared. So chances for rain and snow will also increase here over the next couple of days. Forecast snow totals, mostly 6 to 12 inches of snow for the mountains, and then overnight temperatures will be about 40 to 45. Highs tomorrow afternoon around 50 to 60 here across a lot of the state. St. George, you're close to 70 through Friday, warming back up next week into the 80s starting Monday. For the Wasatch Front, temperatures close to 50 through Friday. Then we're also warming into next week, back into the 60s starting on Sunday.
Well, the grind of the condensed NBA season is real. Just ask the Utah Jazz. They play another back-to-back tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder after losing last night to the Washington Wizards. The Jazz were shorthanded last night without Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson, but they did play well early on. Donovan Mitchell scored 17 of his 42 points in that first quarter, but the Wizards built a 19-point lead in the second half. The Jazz did rally back to cut the lead to 2. But they didn't have enough to complete the comeback. Playing a lot of games in a short amount of time this season is taking its toll on every team in the NBA, including the Jazz.
I'm not blaming the loss on that, though, but there definitely was a few moments of fatigue. But, you know, we got to play through that. You know, that Washington didn't care. You know, the OKC's not going to care, so we got to be able to play through that and play through that. It's easy to forget that this season is what it is, but, you know, for us, we've been rolling all year, and there's going to be games where we're tough. There's going to be moments where we're tired, and there's going to be stretches, you know, where we're tired, you know, throughout games. And we just got to find ways to fight through it, and, you know, we'll bounce back and get ready for tomorrow.
I've been taking a lot of pride in trying to not miss any games. You know, if I'm tired, if I'm, you know, beat up, I try to be there for my team, and you know, I try to not show it, you know, because I need to be the anchor of the defense. So I try not to show it, but yeah, it's been an NBA season, you know, and this one has been a little more condensed. So there's more games, obviously, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to have to be smart because the goal is for us to be fresh for the playoffs, but at the same time to keep competing and more importantly, keep getting better.
Jordan Clarkson doubtful again tonight. Joe Ingles and Royce O'Neal are out against the Thunder. The Utes are in their final week of spring practices. They were in full pads today. They'll have a lighter practice on Thursday. Then it's the spring game on Saturday. 6,500 fans have tickets to watch the red-white game at Rice-Eccles Stadium. It'll be the first time the Utes play in front of fans since 2019. So far, it's been a productive spring.
A lot of good things have transpired this spring. A lot of players have gotten much better, which is the objective. I mean, you would hope that would happen, and it did. We have identified some strengths of the team and things that need to continue to be addressed. So that's where we're at, and we're going to make the most of these last three and the spring game. And hopefully everyone gets a good flavor of what we're all about when you're able to watch the spring game on Saturday.
No 6,500 tickets went fast. They sold out in like a couple hours. We'll be right back.
Looking at the Old Mill camera, is that a shake I see there?
A little bit of a shake, yes. This is our lull, if you can believe it.
A lull before the wind really comes rushing in.
It's actually all of our high wind warnings and stuff that's starting right now at 6 o'clock. So it's just getting started.
When will they be at their peak, Allison, those winds?
Most likely middle of the night after midnight.
All right, good to know. Be prepared. We'll be back here for you tonight at 9.
We'll see you then.